Hello, cheerio, top of the morning. My name's Ed Szymanski. I'm the chef at Dame in the Greenwich Village, and I'm here to make fish and chips for you. To start, we're gonna cure our hake. This is a large, local, flaky white fish, similar to cod. All the cod fisheries on the eastern coast of the US are pretty much depleted, so we use hake. It's a nice local option. So we're gonna add salt and lemon zest. It'll fry up a lot better if there's less moisture content in the fish. You take the salt and from a height, you wanna spread it pretty evenly over the top side of the fish, and then zest one lemon over the top side too. So season pretty aggressively, like a little more salt than you would think you might need, because it's quite a thick piece of fish, and it's gonna be the last seasoning we put in it is this until we take it out of the batter. Once the fish is cured and you've rubbed the cure in a little bit, leave it over ice in the fridge for 3 to 4 hours. Flesh firms up, and then we're gonna wash it off. Now we're gonna start preparing the potatoes. So you need a pot of salted water, season it like you would the sea, and we're gonna triple cook them. So the first time, peel them, chop them into large wedges, and then blanch them for about 10 minutes until they get super soft and fluffy. They've been going for 10 minutes, a little more than that. You can see as I pull them out, they're starting to get fluffy around the edges on the outside, starting to break down a little bit, and then you wanna be able to pinch them, and they start to fall apart. So then take them out gently, being careful not to break them up too much when you take them out. Because again, you're looking for the thick, chunky shape of a proper chip, but you do not want to have tiny little mashed potato bits, because that's not fun. And onto a sheet tray with a rack on top of it. And the rack helps the air circulate and cool it a little more. Yeah, let them cool for a little bit on the counter. And then when they're cooler to the touch, you can put them in the fridge and leave them there for 3 to 4 hours or so, until they get really cool. So now we'll make our tartar sauce and get that ready before we go and fry the fish. So the first step, it's a pretty simple tartar sauce, equal parts creme fraiche and mayonnaise. Combine these two into a bowl, and then all the traditional seasonings of tartar sauce. Pick a little dill. Ketchup with fish and chips is sacrilege, although anyone under the age of 18 can do whatever they want because they ketchup on everything. I think all you need is the malt vinegar, the lemon, and then the tartar sauce. Then we'll chop up our cornichons and our capers. Quite a lot of chunks of stuff, because you want a chunky tartar sauce. You don't want one that's just, otherwise it would be mayonnaise, but this is not mayonnaise, tartar sauce. And then lemon zest, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And to make this recipe, you must go to the Vice Munchies garden and pick chives fresh before you chop them. You definitely don't have to do that. And just mix all that together. Then you end up with this nice chunky tartar sauce. We'll let this chill, and then we'll get on to frying the potatoes and fish. Now we're gonna cook the potatoes the first time in the oil. So we're frying these now at 300 degrees just until they're a little golden brown on the outside and then fully cooked through on the inside. And it should take us about 10 minutes to do that. Make sure it doesn't drop too far below 300 or doesn't get too hot too. You don't want to move this too much. So you could now, as long as you're keeping an eye on the level of the oil and checking that it's not going to explode, you can now go and do something else for a few minutes. Because if you stir them and shake them around too much, they're going to break up even more, which you do not want. These have been cooking for 15 minutes or so, I think. But you can see the edges of the fries are starting to get a little golden brown, and they're crinkly, and they've absorbed some of the oil. So when we fry them at a second time at a higher temperature, they're gonna get super, super crispy, and they're creamy and fluffy on the inside. This is the kind of time you want to take them out. And you see we're being gentle when we do so they don't break up anymore. We're gonna let them cool down again, and we'll turn the fryer oil up. We'll make our batter, and then we'll fry our fish. Oh yeah, I've also got to do a better job of doing an English accent, because last time I did one of these videos, everyone said I sounded Australian.
My goodness.
So, how embarrassing, I know.
How so embarrassing.
So I say, old boy, going to tip our flour into the pot, the bowl, and then we'll add our I should do it how it normally sounds. We'll add the rice flour. So it's a little more rice flour than regular AP flour, and then baking powder, a lot of baking powder, and that gives it the nice puff and rise that's essential to get that craggly, airy batter. Vodka and beer. It's very important you try the beer first. It's good. And don't drink too much of it because you're playing with hot oil. And then 200 milliliters of beer. You want all of these ingredients to be cold, because you have a larger temperature delta between the hot oil and the cold batter. The quicker the crust forms, the less frying the fish does and the more frying the batter does. So the fish inside steams in the batter. Just mix this together. It's a very simple batter, a few ingredients. Then don't overwork it. If you build up the gluten and by whisking the flour too much, you get cake, not batter, which you don't want. And the lumps are kind of fine. You wouldn't worry about that too much. Just mix it enough so that the baking powder can do its thing. And we'll put this in the fridge to chill for a little bit. It takes a couple minutes for the baking powder to activate. When you shoot for Munchies, they give you 4 of these things before you turn the camera on, so you get a little loopy. All right, we're gonna cut the fish into largest kind of chunks like we do at the restaurant, on a bias, and trying to make sure they all stay the same kind of thickness. 6 to 8 ounces is a good sort of middle range size for a portion of fish and chips. And if these look small, when they're battered, they're gonna look pretty big. In this stage, you're gonna get your fingers very close to hot oil, so there's no other real way to do it, unfortunately. Just be careful. When you drop this in, you're gonna see, I'll explain whilst I do it, but it's important that you shake the fish when it hits the oil. It helps let a little bit of the oil underneath and puff up the batter. So you see what I mean, where it like starts bubbling? I made his fish and chips batter and I burnt myself. It's not what I want to hear. You don't want to disturb this too much, but you do want to make sure the batter's sticking to the top of the fish. It's like a tempura technique to take a little bit of the batter and drizzle it on top. It'll help give you some like more definition. 6 minutes total from when it hits the oil to coming out. And then also when it comes out, it's got a lot of hot oil on the outside. It's going to keep the cooking process. And it's, the batter forms a crust and the fish keeps steaming inside. So if you have a meat thermometer or a cake tester or something, that's probably the best way to check whether it's done. It's a good sign if you're getting pretty golden brown that we're nearly cooked. So we can take these out and check them. And all the hard work you put into making that batter and dropping it in and shaking it the right way has formed this beautiful crust on the outside that's craggly and airy and flaky. You do not want to ruin all that hard work now by pulling it out, janking it around and throwing it around. That's a fragile batter on the outside. So just be careful with that. And then because we're going to fry a couple more, just take all those little pieces of batter out. And then so once it's out of the fryer, pretty quickly we hit it with some flaky sea salt. Should be kind of salty of fish and chips. You don't want it under-seasoned. And now we'll fire the chips, and this will be much quicker than the fish. And then we're ready to plate up. Be careful when you drop those in too.
Stout versus lager?
Stout. Guinness in particular. Lager is essential for the batter. I didn't say that, by the way. It's got to be a lighter beer. Don't put IPAs in a fish and chip batter. It's gross. So this is once the potatoes are out and they get to season them with salt, and then we're ready to plate up. All right, so now it's hot, so be careful when you're putting it on a plate. But if you have chef hands, you just pick it up. Careful picking up the fish, and this will stay pretty crunchy for a while. So you could leave this for definitely 20, 30 minutes. So you can go pick the kids up from school and come back and have this. But before you can plate your fish and chips, you must juggle the lemons a little bit.
Whoa!
Thank you.
Very, very nice.
So some cheeks, and there you have your fried fish platter. So at the restaurant we use a tiny little one of these. This is a atomizer. Fill it with malt vinegar, and you can spray everything with this, and it gives it the aroma and a little bit of the flavor of the malt vinegar, but without making it too soggy. And then you can add more as you like. So now we're gonna try some. Yeah, I would go to Dame and eat this. It's nice to have the chunky tartar sauce. No ketchup here, as you can see. Even those stay crispy for like 20 minutes. All right, for this recipe, click the link beneath. Oh yeah, and also come visit me at Dame, where you can see me in the weeds all night long, cooking fish and chips with Duncan and Ayla. Those are my cooks. Cheerio. See you later. Hello. Top of the morning. I don't know if we're going yet or not.
I was gonna feed you a line.
When our staff come into the restaurant every day, I say, hello, cheerio, top of the morning, how's your uncle? I don't know why, but it's
So let's start with that.
yeah.